Hey guys, and happy Wednesday. My name is Taylor, and if you're new to the group or the So What box, you're in for a treat today on this live video. We're going to be doing a bonus project tutorial, and it's just in time for starting to think about summer because we're going to be making a mesh drawstring bag. Let me show you a quick picture here. So it's going to look like this. And the cool part about using this mesh is, first of all, it's see-through. So if you ever go to any concerts or anything and need a see-through bag, this one will work. But also, it's perfect for use at the beach or anything like that because the sand will not get stuck inside this bag because of the mesh holes. So, I've got all my pieces cut out and ready to get started showing you guys how to do this. But first, if at any point you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below and I will get those answered as well as I can. If you're tuning in here to watch the replay, go ahead and still leave your comments below because I can come back later and answer those questions, even if you're watching the replay and not the live video. Also, I did post the amount of fabrics and the pieces that you need to cut out into our Facebook group. You can head to sowhatbox.com/group if you want to see those written out. Otherwise, I will be explaining to you what size pieces of what kind of fabric that you'll need to cut during this video. Um, so I think that covers pretty much everything. I do have one thing that I'm excited to share with you guys that we've been working on this week in the studio. We have teamed up with a national sewing, or not sewing bee, a spelling bee, to give the kiddos something fun to sew when they're not spelling. So since it's a spelling bee and for kiddos, we sent them, oops, that's upside down. We made a bunch of these kits and we sent these to them. And you can see that this has a lanyard, a chapstick holder, and a little mini wallet. We thought that would be perfect for these kiddos that are walking around at the sewing bee. However, since it's a sewing bee, I'm super excited about this. We found this awesome bee fabric. It's like a beehive. So we have been cutting this beehive fabric up all week, making these kits, and it's super exciting. I so hope that the spelling bee kiddos, have fun making this and maybe get hooked on sewing a little bit because it's a good hobby to have. Okay, guys, so let's get into our tutorial. I have a list here of what kind of fabrics you're going to need. Let me see if I can put my second camera onto the screen here. You can see my little mouse, so sorry about that. Whoop, wrong way. Okay, so here is what we need, and I'm going to explain it to you as well. Again, you can also go into the Facebook group, and you can see this in one of the posts we put up last week or early this week, I think. Or if you're watching the replay, you can pause this and just write this down. So we are going to need 1/2 yard of utility mesh. Now, utility mesh is this kind of stuff. And you actually can find this at most fabric stores. Joann Fabrics does have this. You'll find it near the duck cloth or the duck canvas in the utility fabrics. And they call it utility fabric cargo netting. So CARGO netting. Cargo netting if you are getting it at Joann's. Okay, so you're going to need 1/2 of a yard of this. and you'll want to cut it up into one piece that is 16 inches wide by 24 inches long. You need two pieces that are 16 inches wide and 6 inches long. Then you're also going to need 4 yards of paracord. This is going to be our backpack strings. And you're going to want to cut this into two pieces of 2-yard lengths. Now, the trick that I never knew was you want to burn these edges. Can you see how those are melted? If you don't melt these, then what will happen is the inside part of the cord will come out. See here, I think you can probably see on this one. This one on the bottom is not melted yet, and the one on the top is. So the stuff on the bottom, watch, this white can come out. We don't want that to happen, so oops, I might have just ruined it. Nope, there, I sucked it back in. But what you're going to do is you're going to melt that off. And if you're a kiddo trying to do this, you're going to want to get the help of an adult. You can either use a match or a lighter. I just like to use a lighter and just kind of melt this until it kind of melts together. If the paracord catches on fire, just blow it out like you would a candle. It's not going to be like super flammable, so you don't have to like freak out if it catches on fire, but that'll just melt that. Now you're going to want to hold this up and let it cool off before you set it down, because this is kind of like hot glue. It's sticky, and so you don't want it to get stuck on anything. Okay, next you're going to want an accent fabric. I'm going to use this cool tractor print fabric, and you're going to want about 10 inches of a width of that. And we're going to cut it to two pieces of 6 inches by 16 inches and 2 pieces of 2 inches by 19. So once we have all our pieces done, we're going to start by ironing, and I forgot to plug in my iron, so give me a second while I go and grab that, and also switch to my other camera to start the tutorial. Okay, so now you can see my pile of things here. I'm going to go ahead and clean up for a second. I just got my iron plugged in. You're going to want to set your iron to whatever setting of fabric you have. Mine is 100% cotton, so I'm going to use that setting. Don't use any heat on this mesh because it will melt very easily. So we're just going to use the iron at first with these short little strips. And what we're going to do is fold these in half lengthwise and make a crease along the center here. Once you do that, you're going to open this back up, let it cool off a little because it's probably really hot, and then roll these two long raw edges in towards that center crease that you just made. And I'm going to do this one edge at a time. Then we're going to roll this other side here. You can see I'm doing one edge at a time. That way it's just easier. But they're going to meet, these raw edges are going to meet in the center like I'm doing here. And then what's going to happen is once we get this ironed, we'll go ahead and fold this back closed along the original fold line that we did, crease, the original crease, that's the word I was looking for. And then once you fold this together and iron it, you'll see that the raw edges have been sucked inside here. So they're completely encased. You don't see any raw edges. So now that is going to be what we'll use at the end to kind of finish this all up. But first we'll go ahead and do that with the second one as well. This is getting hot, guys, so I'm trying to hurry, but whew. Okay, so now we have both of these creased like so. Now we're going to set these aside because we're going to use them closer towards the end. And I don't think we'll need our iron for a while either, so we're going to set that aside. And we're going to take both of our little pieces of mesh and the other pieces of fabric here. Now, go ahead and lay your fabric right side up, and whichever side you want to be the top of the bag, you're going to pin this small black piece to. So, for instance, if your pattern here has an up and a down, you want to make sure that the up side of the pattern is up towards the top here. Now, you can pin this in place if you have sewing clips. That might be the better route to go just because the pin doesn't hold on to these little mesh things very well. So that's just something to think about there. Once we get this pinned to both sides here, or both of these, we're just going to sew along this edge that we're pinning here. And we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Remember to reverse stitch at the beginning and end. But also, if you are wanting to finish off your seam allowances a little bit nicer, you can go ahead and use a zigzag stitch over the raw edge once you've finished sewing this seam, or you can use pinking shears or anything like that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute the video right now because my sewing machine is going to get really loud. All right, the sound is back on. Once you've got those pieces sewn, go ahead and trim your tails here and remove these pins. We're actually not going to iron this seam allowance because we don't want to melt this mesh, but if you do want to iron it, make sure you're using a 100% cotton cloth as a press cloth or something like that, because you don't want to accidentally melt this stuff. So now we're going to open this back up and put it right side up. And then take this larger piece of mesh that we have and do the same thing that we just did with the smaller pieces of mesh, and put it right here. Hold on, I think that my grandma just got here. I need to go answer the door. So I'll actually switch the camera when I get back and introduce you. No, it's okay. Okay, come on. You will, it'll be fine, and I already said that you were going to. So I got my grandma. This is my grandma. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so she's going to sit over there and I'll talk to her later, but I'm going to finish this tutorial video for you guys right now. Hold on, Grandma. I'll talk to you in a second. Okay, guys, let's go back to the other camera, and we're almost done with this, actually. Okay, so here we are back here. We're going to pin these just like we did the last step, but on the other side here. So just a refresher, we're pinning this big side of mesh down to the bottom of this piece of normal fabric. And then what we're going to do, so watch this closely, we're going to do the same thing but with this piece. So we need to get this right, otherwise you'll have this side inside out, okay? So if we open this up like it had been sewn on this side, we can tell that this is the right side of the mesh. So we're going to turn this around and pin it this way because we want the right side to be pinned in order for it to not be weird and inside out. And, you know, if you accidentally sew this the other way, then you can just really quick take the seam out and redo it the right way, or you can sew one of these at a time so it's less confusing. I'm just going to do them both at once so that I can get this tutorial done faster. Now I'm not going to mute my camera this time while I'm sewing, so you guys comment below and let me know if it's too loud, and if it's loud and annoying, then I'll know for next time to make sure that I mute the camera. Okay, once you're done with that, we are going to trim tails again, pull out these pins just like we did last time, and then we are going to open this up and just double check that all of our seams are actually on the correct side, which you can see here, these are correct. Now, we are going to put these right side together. Actually, not yet. First, what we're going to do, I forgot a step, guys. We need to make the tube up here where our drawstring will go through. So what we're going to do is turn down to the back side, so the wrong side, about 1.5 inches. And you can pin this in place if you want. It might be a little difficult. If you have some fabric pins, or I mean not pins, fabric clips, this is where you're going to use that. I'm just going to eyeball it. Then you're going to sew along this raw edge here. And this is just going to make a 1.5 inch tube that our our drawstring can go through. All right, trimming threads. And now this is an important part to get all these pins out if you use any pins, because sometimes you can lose them in this mesh, especially if you have a blackhead, like this one's a black-headed pin. It kind of blended in. Okay, now that we have that done, we're going to place this right side up and fold this other end up so that it's even with the top. You also want to match up these seams here as well. And what we're going to do is you can either just sew from the bottom of this tube. You don't want to sew these top tubes closed. So from the bottom all the way down to the bottom of the bag down here, you can sew along this if you want, or this is where these pieces come into play. So if you want to not use these pieces, you will line these up like this. If you want to use these pieces, what I like to do is use these to enclose the edge so that it's a little bit stronger, because I feel like sometimes when you sew through this mesh stuff, because of all the holes, it's not super strong. If you want to use these, instead of putting it right sides together, we're going to put it wrong sides together, which is completely backwards from any kind of sewing step that you would know. But we're going to put them wrong sides together. And then we're going to take this, open this up a little bit to fold down about 1 inch at the top, and then reclose it. But we're going to reclose it up here around this, right below where this tube ends. So basically we're using this to encase the mesh here, the edge, and then you'll pin this on and go all the way down like so. Along like this, then you will roll this over the top and pin in place. Now, if you get to this bottom down here and you see that you don't quite have enough length, what you can do is fold this like this. Did you see what I did? I just took this bottom and I folded it into itself here. What this is going to do is make a really cool bottom of the backpack. And then you'll want to fold this into itself here like we did at the beginning and roll it over itself. Then you'll top stitch along the edge here. So this is probably going to be the finish for some of the more experienced sewists, because then you can just use this binding this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and show you guys how to finish it the other way, in case you don't want to deal with all that binding. So again, we're going to go back to putting it right sides together, kind of line up these seams here and the top. And then we're just going to stitch about 1/2 inch in all the way along this edge, but don't go up over these tubes. All right, now I'm just going to flip it around and do the other side if I can ever find these thread tails. That's the bad thing about working with black fabric with black thread, is you can never find the tails to trim off. Okay, now we're going to turn this thing right side out and we should have a bag. If you want to make sure that you don't have any holes, like you caught this whole seam before you turn it right side out, just take your hand and poke along the edges just to make sure that your hand can't come out there. Then go ahead and reach in there and just turn this thing right side out and poke out these bottom corners. And look, it looks like a bag. Now all we have left to do is these drawstrings. Now here you can see the top here. These drawstrings are a little strange, so I'll show you how to do them. I have this cool drawstring threader, so I'm going to use that, but if you guys just want to use however you normally thread a drawstring or whatever, we're going to take one of these pieces and go through this tube that is closest to the top. So on this side, we're going to go through it towards one end. And it's a little difficult because of the mesh. So bear with me. And this is our last step, guys. So we are almost done. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. I'll try to get to them. If I do miss them, don't worry. I'll come back and answer them later. So go ahead and continue asking those questions. Okay, now once we come out this side, we're going to go back through this back side. So here's the front that we just went through. We're going to go back through this back tube that we made. And then once we get this done, we're going to do basically the opposite with the other drawstring piece that we have. So let me get this to come through. Okay, now we have both these coming out of this side. Now we're going to make both ends of this drawstring come out the other side. So in order to do so, I'm going to start going through the front, the top tube, but the opposite way. So I'm coming from this side now instead of the other side. And I'm just going to thread this through here. Oh, I'm stuck on something. Okay, and then we're going to go back the other way through this back tube, just like we did with the first piece, but the opposite way. So doing it like this is what makes it so that when you pull on the handles, like both sides, that it will cinch closed. So if you try to do that with your drawstrings and it doesn't cinch closed, then the reason is you didn't get this done quite right. So there's our cinch closed. Now you're going to want to adjust these so that the ends are kind of the same length. But then you're going to take the two from this side, come down to this bottom corner and put one through a couple of these holes down here. So just the holes in the mesh is what we're going to use. And then once it comes through, you'll put these two together. There you go, you can see it. And we're just going to tie a knot. So if you tie a knot in there, then look, we're stuck, and that's how we get our backpack arm strap. So then I'll go ahead and do that on this side over here. Going to stick this through a couple of these holes. And get that tied, and then there we go. So, guys. Okay, so looks pretty good, huh? Good job, guys. That was fun. And if you need to get the directions for cutting this, again, I did post them into our Facebook group earlier this week. Here's the link to go to the Facebook group and check it out. Also, I did put it in the description of this video. I know on YouTube it's going to be easier to find that description than in Facebook. So also you can rewind to the beginning of this video, and then I kind of went through that there as well. Again, if you want to get this specific mesh stuff, this is what it looks like. It's at pretty much any fabric store, but if you get it at Joann Fabrics, they call it cargo netting. Let me see if I can show this to you guys in the camera. And it's going to be in the utility fabrics at Joann Fabrics. It's going to be kind of where they have the duck cloth or the duck canvas. And that's where you'll find this. So I hope you guys had so much fun. I hope that you enjoy your drawstring mesh bags. And I'd love to see pictures of them finished. Go ahead and post them into the Facebook group so that we can see them, so that all the other club members can see them too. And then maybe we'll just all get inspired from each other. Okay, guys, well, I think that's all for now. Again, if you had any questions or you're watching the replay and you have questions you want to get answered, go ahead and comment below, and I'll get to those as I see them come through. But for now, guys, thanks for watching.